What are your, what's your name, how old are you, and what are your pronouns?
My name is Lorenzo. I am 16 years old. My pronouns are she, he.
Like, how long have you known you're trans?
I've known I was trans since 3rd grade. So, 8 years?
8 years? How has being trans affected, like, your relationships, specifically with, like, other queer and trans people?
Before I was trans, I was like 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really interact with queer people. Before that, they just weren't in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But being trans really gives me a sense of camaraderie, I feel, with a lot of people. There is the, like, literal community aspect, but for me, it's just, like, a very heightened ability to be able to, like, meet somebody that you know you will have common ground with. And that's kind of, like, I mean, now that being trans is pervasive, there are, like, right-wing trans people now, or whatever, but, like, I know for a fact, we can just stand here now.
Yeah,
as
they're getting their pizza.
Dan can order Domino's. We can climb this hill. Essentially, what you can see somebody on Twitter, right? You can see, like, a scantily clad person on Twitter and clock them as trans, and you know for a fact they will, I lost my train of thought, dude. They all, like, fuck. It's not gonna be a real take, but you should record it.
Okay.
Ask the question.
I forgot. What are the things that bring you joy as a trans person?
Video games.
Dubstep and
weed.
jacking off.
Jerking off.
What brings you joy as a trans person?
I mean, I think ultimately, more than anything, is just the feeling of being with a bunch of other trans women. For me, trans women, but just trans people in general, is an absolutely fucking, like, that is an unparalleled feeling for me. Because I feel a sense of community that I truly don't feel anywhere else. And I think it's incredible to know trans people and know people who are like myself and who can relate to the struggles that I have and whatever. Yeah, I love other trans people. That's really the best part for me.
Good? Cool. Yeah! Here we go, Cocky Girl Summer. Some real Midwest emo for you. A real emotional Midwest emo. Herndon is officially part of the Midwest today.
My castle, your castle.
Alright, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Said I think that's about as much as I can handle, but this is the best for us both, you hissed. And I've been told that when you go you'll be missed. I've been running on spite the past 6 years or so, and you know how that goes. Like, yeah, it works, but I'm bitter and I'm getting worse. But I can cry now, that's first, and nobody told me how much it could hurt. Red hot iron handle melting into my clenched fist. I said I think that's about as much as I can handle, but this is the best for us both, you hissed. And I've been told that when you go you'll be missed. I've been running on fumes for like the last 12 years. Conquered all my fears, but in between the things I say, the things I mean, my heart keeps bursting at the seams. I guess just listen to what Wikipedia has to say. Don't worry, when you grow up all those problems go away. I guess just listen to what Wikipedia has to say. Don't worry, when you grow up you'll find even worse ones anyway. Your red hot iron handle melting into my clenched fist. I said I think that's about as much as I can handle, but since the best for us both, you hissed. I know damn well that when you go you'll be missed.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah!
Thank you very much.
What is your name?
Guinevere Tully, also known as Rosslyn Station.
First name Rosslyn, last name Station.
Exactly.
Tell me about the Fernats.
My one true love. The Fernats was a band that I joined when I was still in high school. It was like, I had done some like relatively like serious shows with a band before that, like my junior year of high school, but then that band broke up and I was kind of like, well, I don't know what I want to do anymore. And then my old friend Sean and my old friend Aaron were like, hey, we're starting a band. We don't have a bassist. Do you want to play bass? And I love playing the bass. And so I was like, hell yeah. And that was that, you know, we put out our first release, I want to say in like 2015 or 2016. And then we put out, like the last EP we put out was 2021, I think. 2022 maybe. But it was, you know, in my head it amounts to about like 7 years of playing in a band with people. And like the lineup changed a little bit, but like, that definitely felt like the place where I started to kind of come into myself, and I was able to like, I found some footing there, and I felt less like someone that happened to be involved and more like someone that was like really impacting and like, you know, I was able to kind of leave my mark in a way. For the most part, like indie surf rock stuff, I think it's tons of fun. I still would consider My Cat at Home to be like my personal crowning achievement.
And Ekko Astral came after the Fernats?
Yeah, Ekko started, I don't know, I can't remember when they started, because I think it was probably like 2021, I think. I also joined the band Blade there, because again, it kind of, things happened where like, they ended up needing a bassist, and so my friend Miri, who I knew from Pretty Bitter, hit me up one day and was like, do you want to play bass in this like trance punk band? And I was like, say less. Like, I mean, like that is so up my alley. And like, because while I you know, I love the Fernats and everything, it kind of felt a little like I came out you know, publicly and everything, as much, you know, there isn't like one set date for me necessarily, but like kind of like exploring my gender identity and all that kind of stuff like happened later on in the Fernats, and it was cool that I had that outlet, but I also felt like it wasn't like a lot. I loved seeing the people who came to our shows and everything, but ultimately it was like mostly cis people. I think our audience was relatively queer, which I think partially is just because we were a Richmond band, but like, but anyway, like someone's like, do you want to join this trans girl punk band? And I'm like, yeah, I would have fucking loved to join this trans girl punk band. And so I joined in early 2022. I want to say it was like March or April. And like they like brought me in for a practice, and like halfway through the practice they were like, yeah, okay, like I think we got this now. And then not too long after that we had one show and it was really fun, and then we had another show and it was more fun, and it was just kind of like we added Sam to the mix. Initially, as far as I'm concerned, like when I showed up, the band was JL, Liam, Miri, and then me. We added Sam as an extra guitarist, which I'm always, whenever you add a second guitarist, I'm like, do we need to? But then we like started practicing with Sam and everything. It was amazing, and it was really cool how we were able to do that. And so it was pretty cool. And every show kind of just felt like we were building on what we had done the last time around. And it still kind of feels that way. And we're gonna have a really exciting and busy 2024. So that'll be real cool. But Ekko is a lot of fun to play in, because I mean, in the same way that like Fernat's crowds tended to skew more cis, like like it's like an Ekko crowd, you'll find one or two cis people, maybe. But it's been really cool to see so many people like enjoy. It's not. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like it's what we like. It's partially what we do, but it's also just like giving people that outlet to like go out to a show and feel safe and like you're with community.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're the only people that do this, but like the reaction that we got to just existing, I feel like did demonstrate like a little bit of a lack of that in like the DC area. Kind of greater. I mean, we've seen it at Arts Herndon. Like it's not just us, but everybody who contributes like gets to feel that effect a little bit, I think. So it's been really cool kind of being something that like other trans people can look at or listen to and be like, wow, like I feel seen and heard, and it's very nice. But I started trying like in middle school. My older sister was like starting a band with some friends, and I was like do you have siblings?
Yes.
Older siblings or younger?
Older.
Yeah. So you probably like you see that like an older sibling doing something, and you're like, well, I want to do that. And so I was like, hey, you don't get to start a band without me. Plus, I play the bass. Like, because between orchestra and this point, like I had acquired a bass guitar and started like. I really started learning how to play the bass by just looking up different tabs for Blink-182 songs and playing them until I can like do it like the back of my, I had it down like the back of my hand. But so like, around that time, and like at that point, we were all kids still, and we didn't really know what we were doing. So it was like, it was fun. We were playing some music, but mostly it was like a social kind of thing where we got to hang out and say like, yeah, we're in a band. And then after that, I did join like a slightly more serious band in high school, and that was, I think, around the time where I was like, okay, like people are like writing music and like trying to show it off and everything, and so that's kind of when I started trying to like make my own music and like write. I've like every time I've been in a band, usually I'm given some like free rein for like what happens with the bass guitar. Which I love because that's really like what I'm trying to do is I just love playing the bass. But like, everybody's got something to say, and I'm able to play the guitar, and so I kind of started trying to figure that sort of stuff out. And for a long time, it was just kind of like, just being nervous or like being really self-conscious about it, where I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna write, I'm gonna practice, but I'm not gonna show anyone anything until it's good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like a really bad way to think about it in hindsight, because really what ends up happening is I just kind of like, I'll like write a couple things and then just forget all about it, and then there's no one else to like bring it up or say like, hey, I know you might not have enjoyed this part, but I think it's really cool, or like, you know, I found that very special. And so you know, there's no feedback, there's no growing from that really, like it just kind of was really stagnant. And so, you know, I kept trying. In like after high school, I tried to start writing more, because like it is definitely one of those things where you need to keep going. Like everyone says you write 100 songs and one of them is good, and that, I think there's definitely some truth to that. But even at that point, it was kind of one of those things where I would write songs, but it was never quite in line with like the vibes that whatever band I was in was kind of going for. And so like I'd be like, hey, maybe we can work on this and try it, and they'd either be like, well, I don't know how to play that right, or they'd say like, this isn't really like our style. And it's like, okay, I get that. And for a while I was just kind of like, okay, well, it's enough for me to just have written them, like, and have them. I've tried very hard, not very hard, but I've tried to like approach songwriting and making music as like a personal catharsis, almost like a journal. Which is why like I just kind of would put things up on Bandcamp, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to tell anyone about this. It's enough for me to know that it's there. And I still think at the end of the day that is kind of what's enough for me, but it does also make it just kind of sweetens the deal when people are like, I listened to that and I enjoyed it, and I'm like, what? You found it? So I guess really it was like around, you know, I was like 18 or 19 and like really starting to like struggle with depression and stuff, and I was like, how do I get this into words? Because like it's not working this way, I need to figure something else out. And so, you know, metaphor and all that kind of stuff like is very helpful for describing those sorts of stuff. And then any solo stuff has just kind of been an extension of that, I suppose, where it's like, okay, well, I wrote the songs, I might as well play them now. And it's been very exciting to see so many people enjoy it and have things resonate with them.
Yeah, I love like acoustic, like folk punk and anti-folk. So I think it's cool that you are like one of those type of musicians. I mean, I don't want to put you in a box, but
No, I mean, you're kind of right.
But yeah,
I think that's what draws me to those genres, is how approachable it is, because you can just do something like that. Like you don't need electricity, you don't need a crowd really. Like you just show up and you do it. And I think that's like a very core part of like, I mean, DIY, you know, like you're doing it, you're with other people, but that, you know, that's what DIY really means, like do it yourself with other people. And so that's why I like the folk punk so much and anti-folk, you know, you can just do it.
Yeah. I don't have any more questions.
That's okay.
Dude, I love being a faggot. What is your name, how old are you, and what are your pronouns?
My name is Marshall. I'm 22 years old, and I use he, him, his pronouns.
What brings you joy as a trans person?
I think existing authentically as myself, like doing everything that I've ever done to make myself either stand out or be somebody who makes me happy rather than trying to conform to what anyone expected of me is what really makes me the happiest.
How long have you known you're trans?
Almost half of my lifetime now. I think I really started to think about it when I was like maybe 14, 15, and it's always just kind of been in the back of my mind. I didn't really have the courage to explore it until like a little bit later in my life, honestly. It was always there, but it's like you think you can just kind of shove it and it will go away, but that didn't work.
Yeah, that was like the same for me as well.
You have that like really weird hyper-feminine part of your life where you're like, I'm gonna do this and then it'll fix it. It was like a weird bell curve where it was like, I am a cis girl to I am completely just like, I'm going to be guy, Calvin Guerra-esque like nonsense, and then now that I'm like on hormones and like comfortable, I'm like, I can mess around again.
I
This
can
is
get
fun.
silly with it.
I can get silly with it. That's exactly what it is.
How has being trans affected your day-to-day life?
It's hard. A lot of people think that you're weird, and it's like you have to navigate the world knowing that people aren't going to like you just on the basis of you're doing something that's going to make you happy. Sometimes you have to just kind of live with that. Like, a lot of the time it would make me so upset where it's like, I don't even want to leave the house, but now it's like, I can't do anything to change that person's mind, and they can just be upset that I'm happy, and they just have to live with that, because I'm certainly not going to.
How would you describe, like, I don't know, like, love as a trans person?
Like,
This is, like, kind of a bad question, I'm sorry.
no, it's loaded because I'm like, it's different, because when I was in a T for T relationship, it felt, I don't want to say more organic, but it was like there is a mutual understanding between you and this other trans person where it's like this, everything makes sense, and I don't feel the need to explain myself. And that's why I think being T for T is the GOAT. But also, it's just, I feel like I don't love any differently from like a cis person. Like, all that I want is like a person who is understanding and respectful of me, and words. That is really loaded, but it's not, I'm not mad. It's just like, wow. Zingers. How old am I? What is love?
Like, how has the trans community, like, helped you, I guess?
It's been the, like, the found family trope is so played out, but it is true. Like, when I came out, there was no pushback from my family, but there also wasn't acceptance. So it was a home that was just like, okay, whatever you say, and then there was no change. If anything, like, a name is all that I really get at home, but that's it. So being able to foster community and family among, like, friends and people who will understand and won't question anything when it comes to my identity has actually been extremely crucial in being happy. My cis brother is cool, though. He is the one person in my family who is just like, no matter what, you are always going to be my favorite person, and I'm so happy that I get to have like a brother. And goat. That was like a conversation between us in a bunk bed that was last Christmas. It was just, my birthday's December 23rd. I was in a town that I didn't want to be in. I was with extended family for the first time in like months and months, and I just wasn't there. And he was just like, whatever happens, I'm always going to be there for you. And I'm like, I'm not crying in this top bunk. Go to bed.
So sweet. I don't have any more questions.
Somebody's smoking. I smell it.
Thank you. Yeah! We are the Civil War in France. And we have so much merch, please buy it.
It is recording.
Or-
I'm gonna ask you questions about being trans first.
The better of the two experiences, definitely.
How old are you? What's your name? And what are your pronouns?
I am 25. My name is Milo Paul, and my pronouns are anything but he, him. Like, literally anything.
What brings you joy as a trans person, or how would you define trans joy?
In terms of a definition, like a kind of consistent solidarity, compassion, and empathy. Perhaps to a greater degree than, say, like with like cis people. I feel like the trans experience inherently begs and asks for empathy and compassion and love and admiration also. And so long as that's coupled within like this present community, I feel alive. I feel very much myself, and in a way that I don't really experience anywhere else.
How does being trans affect your relationships?
Despite what I previously said, which would suggest there's like a majesty and ethereal joy to the experience, it is a bit of a bummer when really all it comes down to with my identity for people who aren't trans is that it is like a minus point. It's a problem. It's a point of warfare or something. But with that being the case, when it's with trans peers, it makes the relationships all the more meaningful. It makes them, as I said, feel alive. Makes me feel alive, and I cherish them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll come back.
Sure.
For being a musician, when did you start playing music / how did you start playing music?
Kind of since I was a kid. I perhaps like the cringiest moment of my life is like there's like a video of me in like pre-K, and I'm playing like a fake fucking flute, and I'm going doo 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 or something, and my mom will tell people that's like when she knew or something like that. But then I was like in chorus, like elementary school. I played like the bass drum. In terms of like actually doing music in the way that I want to, and not like a kiddie kind of way, I guess, 15 or 16. Ironically, when I am still a kid. In high school, you know, meeting other people who like either are like you or enjoy the same music as you, suddenly there's just like the means to collaborate, and that's when I started. Specifically on guitar, specifically singing, but guitar wasn't even my first instrument, so.
What different kind of projects, bands, kind of music groups have you played in, and what has been your favorite?
Who have I played now? My first band, I think I mentioned this at that show, was a band called Turb. and we got confused as Turd a lot. Fun fact, actually, the drummer of that band is now like a DJ that mainly focuses on drum and bass in LA, and she's like a lesbian street fighter. It's insane.
That's awesome.
I miss her so much. Angeline, if you see this, please come back. But that was that. There was like supposedly garage rock. Then there's Other Victorians, which is still going. That band is entirely trans. Laughing at the Void, entirely trans band. That stopped happening. We were a good hardcore band, but the people involved weren't necessarily great people. And then there's the Trashcan, the solo thing, and Flea Bath, which is the first band that has allowed me to go on tour, so I guess I'll pick that between, like, a band that has let me go on tour, and also, like, my solo project, which is where I can, like, be the most musically myself. I have to sacrifice some aspect of transness in being in Flea Bath because I wear... Or actually, no, maybe I amplify it, but in, like, a different way, because I, like, wear a gorilla mask and purposely go by ambiguous pronouns when I'm on stage. Yeah, no, that's a trans band. That's a trans band. Never mind.
It sounds like you played in like several different genres. What has your experience been like with kind of seeing different scenes and communities?
It's been interesting because even though there's a lot of crossover, there still feels like there's thick walls between a given scene. Like, you can see people at the same, like, heavy metal show that you see at, like, just, like, an indie pop show, but at the same time, trying to have a crossover between those two elements is nigh on impossible. I mean, I think the closest place that has managed to do that would probably be the Pocket, because everyone that works there manages to like have their hand in all the pots genre-wise. Another plus with being trans and being in this trans community, I guess, is like regardless of genre, other trans people want to see you. They want to hear your music. I think we inherently go towards each other once we find out that someone involved musically is a trans person. So I guess transness in and of itself kind of like avoids those walls a bit more.
Right. Going back to the trans questions.
Yes.
How has being an artist, being a musician, I don't know, just how's that affected you in terms of expressing yourself as a trans person?
True. It's given me definitely a lot more things to say. There's a lot more on my plate that I want to discuss when it comes to writing lyrics. But especially in the genre of punk, which whatever subgenre I do of it, it's always punk. There's such a rich trans history to that genre. And so I feel like whenever I participate in it, I'm like doing something that recent like queer trans ancestry was doing. And it's not always ideal, because punk can also be disturbingly, ragingly transphobic to a nauseating degree, but that's also why I avoid like going to certain shows, which isn't ideal, but it's the truth of the matter.
I don't have any other questions, I don't think.
Word.
I see.
Yeah, so like when it's on game mode, you're running your television through these 3 cables, whereas when it's on cable mode, you're running it through your cable modem. Why won't you work? I have no idea what this does.
Yeah.
It's because of the cable box. Can you unplug the RCAs?
Yeah.
Hello, Link. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview. We have a few questions that have been prepared by your fans. We'd like to begin by opening the floor for any comment you'd like to make for your admirers around the world. If you'd like to impart upon them any of your emotions or feelings about their appreciation for what you do, please take your opportunity now.
Everyone dies. Lorenzo, you know that shit. Kill everyone dies. Take a fucking mic. There's a mic right there. Let's get this shit going. Let's get this shit going. Hey, y'all know this song. This is our fucking song. Everyone dies. Bad news. Let's get it.
Oh, hey, Demeter.
Oh, I was just reading literature, as they say in France.
Do you mind if I interview you for my video project?
Not at all, as long as you pay me.
What is your name? How old are you? And what are your pronouns?
My name is Demeter Capsalis. I am 30 years old. And my pronouns are she, her, with an adjacency to they, because like the average trans girl, I have an obscene fantasy of becoming they fab. Just kidding. No, my pronouns are she, her.
What brings you joy as a trans person?
I think my sense of joy is, I don't know if distorted is the correct word, but it is filtered through having autism spectrum disorder. So I feel that experiencing joy for me is in alignment with my stims and my obsessions as an autistic person. But when it comes to experiencing joy as a trans person as well, I think that bringing joy to myself in terms of my trans identity is exhibited in activities like when I select a new hairstyle or dye my hair or pick a shirt that I'd like to wear for several days on end or pants that make me feel euphoric. I think gender euphoria brings me joy as a trans person. And gender euphoria is an expression of autonomy, which most trans people rightfully don't feel that they are able to access because of social repression and gender austerity and the neo-Christian, post-liberal, proto-fascist government dread that hangs over them, fearing that any day they would lose access to healthcare or be persecuted for being trans. So oftentimes we are consumed with paranoia as trans people, or we feel intimidated by prejudiced cis people, and we don't feel like we can self-determine. And so our gender euphoria is rarefied. But I think that when we are able to experience that, we feel empowered for our own autonomy. And I think that joy is a byproduct of autonomy and self-determination. And I think that the average trans person, including myself, experiences joy by feeling empowered and capable to make their own decisions and select what they wear and use which restroom is comfortable for them to use. And I think that's ultimately a political victory and not something that's achieved through doing drugs or, as the young screamo bands say, what is it? Weed, jacking off.
Dubstep and
Weed.
jacking off.
Jerking off.
I think joy as a trans person is more of a political victory, which is achieved through either bloodshed or rhetorical victory, I guess. Yeah, it's achieved either through bloodshed or rhetorical victory, and hopefully the bloodshed will be outweighed by the rhetorical victory. It'll be easier to convince people with your rhetoric that you have the right to self-determine. So I think ultimately the Socratic decision I've come to is that as a trans person, what brings me joy is political victory, political self-determination, and I think that more trans people should aspire to that, because in turn it will make them more sensitive to the vulnerabilities of other people that are marginalized and maybe more marginalized than they are. And it's important for us to experience joy in a socially conscious state of mind, because then we're not exclusively self-indulgent with our joy. We experience joy like an animal finding a source of nutriment and deciding to share it with other animals instead of hiding it cubby dug in the earth. We are inclined to enlighten other creatures to what we found and how they can find it by their own devices as well. So trans joy is a political victory which is important to share and to not make into an expensive commodity, but rather a free, inalienable right that is defended viciously.
Awesome. How has having a community affected you positively? How has it helped you?
I am a survivor of domestic abuse, and due to the grimness of my experience, I lost the feeling for a community. I had all of my friends stolen is not the right word. My friends were harassed out of my life, and I was manipulated through repetitive violence to not make an attempt to regain my friendship. So as a result of the traumatic events I went through, I was harmed to such an extent that I felt pessimistic that I could experience a community, or that I could enter one. And that had its effect on my feelings about music scenes as well. There was a period when I didn't feel that music scenes existed, and I felt very pessimistic about music scenes. But that was a byproduct of my traumatic experiences and not my emotional state, because I had always been very passionate about musical community and community in general. There was nothing I loved more than my enormous group of friends, so losing those friends was the great sorrow of my life, and it remains that because some of those friends I'll never get back. And ultimately I found closure by forcing myself to search for a belief in a community. I went back as far as I could into my teenage years, and I remembered the punk scene in Herndon, and I thought, if I can revive that, not for myself, but for other kids who do not have it currently, because I had it when I was a kid and it was great, but they don't have it currently. If I can revive it for them, I will experience closure, because instead of putting somebody else down, I brought people up. That has been the reward of the community that I have become immersed in, is the feeling of making a choice between doing harm and improving people's lives. And seeing people's lives be improved by each other as a result, and the domino effect that is created when one person's life is improved by a show that gives them a sense of belonging, and then that person brings 3 more friends, and those 3 friends tell 7 friends, and those 7 friends invite 5 more, and before you know it, there's 50 kids that are experiencing punk rock for the first time. You realize that community is not a matter of selfish gain. You don't achieve anything on a personal level. It's the experience of seeing others realize the infinite magic of being a human, and seeing that experience be contagiously spread around the room. In that sense, community is a matter of emotional health for a large group of people. So I got my closure and I regained my emotional health. I saw so many people, especially young people, gain that for themselves for the first time, especially when these are young people who were already enamored with punk rock, with screamo, with other, fringe forms of underground music, and then they got to experience it on a personal level. So they were already attracted to that, and then they achieved it in real life, and not just in their imagination or on their walls in the form of posters and things like that. The positive effect of community on me has been a sense of emotional closure for traumatic events that I've survived, but in addition to that, it has reinforced in me a belief that despite bad things that we go through, we have a capacity to do good, and in turn that encourages people to become more conscientious about others, not only in their area but around the world. So I hope that the positive effect, or rather the positive experience that I've had in the scene, in turn encourages other people to become more conscientious global citizens, as well as local citizens, and I hope that they receive, similarly helpful effects from the scene, and I know that many of them do, because many people, contact me and tell me about how the scene has changed their life or has helped them through difficult experiences, and my response to that is always that I'm very proud of them, and that I'm so happy that they've experienced something that beautiful, and that they're able to embody that, and in turn they'll do that for somebody else one day without even making an effort. It'll just become who they are. So I hope that is a common experience where the scene consumes you, and you become the scene, and then you feel liberated to be who you always were.
Cool.
Rock
Music. What's your favorite part about being trans?
The comedic side of me wants to say my favorite part about being trans is you're like a villain. I think the more realistic part of me knows that my favorite part of being trans is that you exist in a mental world where the possibilities are much less limited than the society that surrounds you, and you are able to become an interpreter of self-determination to other people, and it's marvelously entertaining to be trans, because you see others shrouded in a haze of lackluster self-rejection, and you then look to yourself and you feel that you have scepter or magic wand with which you can surround your body in a glow of a strange magic that somehow has escaped everybody around you. You feel as if you've accidentally uncovered a great mystical secret of life, the secret of transformation, the secret of metamorphosis. But being trans is one of the many ways to escape that limit on transformation. I mean, being trans is being transgender, but it's also being transformative. It's transforming yourself, you know, and I hope that in turn they're able to use that as a sense of wisdom so that they're able to speak out for people who are more limited than they are in basic rights like access to safe water or living in repressed communities, etc., harassment by police, things like that. You know, being trans is it can be horrifying, but you know, there's intersectionality for it. So the experience that you get unlocking that the ancient secret of metamorphosis, in turn, I hope that encourages trans people to become advocates for others that also want to be free, whether they're trans or not. Being trans is fun because you get to be a villain who's also insightful about ancient human experiences that everybody deserves to freely experience, and then you get to fight for those people, so that's cool as fuck.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip the last question because it's not a good question.
Wait, what's the question? I want to.
It's like
Is it about bagels?
No, it's how has your life changed after coming out?
Oh. It got harder.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any final thoughts?
Punk rock.
Is that it?
Satan.
Satan.
Oh yeah.
I was also.
Whose band are you?
Do you have any final thoughts, Stephen?
I've not usually.
Wait, I do have a final thought.
Okay.
I'd like to thank Link for being a very friendly cat. I recently read this book. It's called A Poetic Equation. It's a dialogue between Nikki Giovanni and Margaret Walker. I would encourage everybody to read it. I think it's great. And also, this is a very pertinent read as well. It's called Why I Am Not a Christian by Bertrand Russell. I would encourage punk rockers to read it. Yeah, my final thoughts are read more, write more, and tell celebrities in your community to eat a bag of dog shit.